A folded napkin. A 5-second glance. That's all it took for Alec Strathmore, a billionaire who thought he'd buried the past, to make a reckless decision. He didn't need a date for his ex's wedding. He needed a message. So he chose her, a poor waitress with tired eyes, coffee-stained hands, and no idea who he really was. Rina Calder had no dress, no title, no interest in fairy tales. But what she did that night left a ballroom full of elites speechless. And Alec wondering if, just maybe, this wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about something he never thought he'd find. Before we dive into the story, comment below where you're watching from. Enjoy the story, everyone. He didn't even open the envelope. The gold-embossed letters stared up at him from his desk like a taunt. Sabrina and Elliot. Together forever. Alec Strathmore let the invitation sit there as he leaned back in his leather chair, one hand draped over the armrest, the other spinning a crystal tumbler half-filled with untouched bourbon. It had been 2 years since Sabrina Voss left him, 2 years since she stood in that exact office and told him she wanted more than a man married to work. Now she was marrying Elliot Langford, the safe, polished son of a legacy family whose greatest achievement was being agreeable. Alec didn't flinch when his assistant brought it in. But the moment she left, the glass in his hand cracked from the pressure of his grip. He wasn't going. That much was clear. He had no intention of standing in a sea of silk and diamonds, pretending to be fine while Sabrina waltzed down an aisle of carefully selected admiration. But then Ethan happened. His best friend and longest-suffering confidant strolled into his office later that day, took one look at the unopened envelope and smirked. "You know what this is, right?" Ethan said, settling into the chair across from him without invitation. "It's bait." Alec arched a brow. "She wants me to come. She wants you to come alone. So she can look untouchably happy while you stand there like the ghost of bad choices." Alec didn't respond. He didn't need to. They both knew he hated losing more than he hated lying. "You could go," Ethan continued, "but don't go alone." Alec let out a slow breath. "Bring who? Some influencer from the agency? I'd rather eat glass." Ethan leaned forward, eyes gleaming. "Then don't take someone obvious. Take someone real. Someone so unexpected it makes her spin." Alec laughed without humor. "Like who?" "My cleaning lady." "Close," Ethan grinned. "Pick someone from the real world. A waitress. A barista. Someone who wouldn't be caught dead at a Voss Langford wedding." It was meant as a joke. Just a throwaway. But the seed was planted. And 2 days later, Alec walked into a downtown cafe on the edge of the financial district where suits met scrapes and time slowed for exactly no one. He didn't know why he stopped. Maybe it was the rain. Maybe it was the noise in his head. Maybe it was the way she moved, fast, efficient, invisible to everyone except him. She wasn't conventionally beautiful. Not the kind of woman who turned heads in charity ballrooms. But she had something else. A stillness behind her eyes. A calm he hadn't seen in years. She was balancing a tray in one hand, scribbling an order with the other, and intercepting a falling coffee cup with a reflex that looked rehearsed by necessity, not grace. He sat down at the counter. She didn't look at him right away. Just dropped a menu beside him and said, "You've got exactly 4 minutes before the lunch rush crushes my soul. What can I get you?" He smiled. It caught her attention. She turned, finally meeting his gaze, and froze for the briefest second. Not because she recognized him, but because she didn't. "Water." "And a question," Alec said, folding the menu closed. She raised an eyebrow. "That's not on the board." "What's your name?" She paused. "Rina. No last name." "That costs extra." He liked her already. "I have a proposition, Rina." She leaned on the counter, skeptical. "This usually ends with me losing a kidney. Come with me to a wedding. I'll pay you $10,000 for the night." Her laugh was short and rough, like she hadn't used it in a while. "You're insane." "Probably." "Whose wedding?" "My ex-fiancée's." Rina blinked. Alec expected confusion. Suspicion. Maybe offense. But all she said was, "You really think dragging a waitress into a room full of sharks is going to fix whatever broke you?" His smile widened. "No, I think it'll break them." She watched him, long enough to see that he wasn't joking. 15,000, she said. He didn't blink. "Done. I picked the dress. Of course. And I get to eat the cake." Now he laughed genuinely, unexpectedly. "Anything else?" Rina straightened, tucking her notepad into her apron. "I want cab fare. Both ways." He slid a business card across the counter. "My driver will call you." And just like that, she walked away. Not flustered. Not impressed. Not curious. Like this happened every day. It didn't. And Alec Strathmore couldn't stop thinking about her. That night, she showed up at the fitting room address he'd texted. No questions. No entourage. Just jeans, a hoodie, and hair tied back with a pen. The boutique staff nearly fainted. Alec watched from a distance as she stepped into the soft light of the private salon. She didn't touch the gowns. She didn't gape at the heels or sparkle at the mirrors. She just looked at him. "Still time to back out," she said. "Are you?" She gave him a half smile. "No. I want to see how deep this rabbit hole goes." And as she disappeared behind the curtain, he realized something dangerous. He wasn't in control of the story. Not even close. The boutique transformed her. But not in the way Alec expected. There was no wide-eyed awe, no girlish gasps in front of mirrors, no clumsy twirls in heels that cost more than her monthly rent. Rina Calder stepped out of the fitting room in a deep sapphire gown, backless, sleek, devastatingly simple, and looked at herself like she'd worn it 1,000 times. The staff froze. Even Alec forgot how to blink. She didn't ask for validation. She didn't wait for anyone's opinion. She just adjusted a loose strap, glanced at her reflection once more, and said, "Let's get this over with." The car ride to the Voss Langford wedding was silent. Rina stared out the tinted window like the skyline of Belgrave City was just another version of a place she'd already escaped once. Alec studied her profile, sharp, unreadable, untouched by nerves. "You're not even curious about where we're going?" he finally asked. She smirked. "You said wedding. I assumed castle or country club with too many chandeliers and not enough honesty." He let out a short laugh. "Accurate. Besides," she added, crossing one leg over the other, "you're not the first man to try to dress up a poor girl and make her a statement piece." He turned to her, surprised. "Is that what you think this is?" "I think that's what she'll think." She didn't say Sabrina, but they both heard the name echo between them. The car slowed in front of a grand estate with columns that seemed taller than justice. Fairy lights dripped from every balcony. Classical music floated in the air like perfume. Cameras flashed. People turned. Rina exhaled once, slow and steady, then opened the door herself and stepped out. Everything stopped. The air, the whispers, the subtle judgment that usually slid under skin like splinters. None of it touched her. She walked beside Alec, not behind, not clinging, but as if the world belonged to both of them, and tonight they were simply reclaiming it. The first person to notice them was Sabrina. She stood by a white rose fountain, dressed like a bride from a magazine cover, perfect, icy, unbothered. Until her eyes landed on Rina. Something flickered. Not jealousy. Not yet. First recognition. Then uncertainty. Then threat. Sabrina leaned over and whispered something to her fiancé. He looked up, curious. Confused. Alec smiled politely at guests as they passed. He was aware of the stares, the murmurs, the speculation. But his eyes kept drifting back to Rina. She was calm. Effortless. Like she'd never poured cheap coffee into chipped mugs at 6 a.m. or counted change to afford instant noodles. Like she had always belonged among silk gowns and champagne flutes. "How do you know where to look?" he murmured, leaning close. She didn't turn her head. "At a wedding like this? Everyone's watching to see who's pretending. And you're not." She finally met his gaze. "No, but you are." They moved through the crowd like a warning. Sabrina approached moments later, her smile tight and rehearsed. Alec, she said sweetly, brushing a kiss near his cheek. What a surprise. You sent me an invitation, he replied, deadpan. Yes, but I didn't think you'd actually come. She turned to Rina, letting her eyes sweep over her gown with faux curiosity. And who is your guest? Before Alec could speak, Rina extended her hand with practiced poise. Rina Calder. A pleasure. Sabrina hesitated before taking the handshake. Lovely to meet you. Your dress is bold. Thank you, Rina replied with the softest edge. I find bold choices tend to hold up in rooms full of mirrors. Sabrina blinked. Alec almost choked on his champagne. Well, Sabrina said, recovering, I hope you enjoy the evening. The bar is open. For now. She drifted off with a laugh too light to be real. Rina watched her go, then turned to Alec. That went well? You terrify her. Good. He stared at her for a moment too long. Then a voice called out from the crowd, someone Alec hadn't seen in years. Business partner. Investor. Billionaire circuit buddy. Strathmore. Introduce us to the lady. Rina didn't wait for Alec to speak. She stepped forward, extended her hand, and smiled like royalty who chose to vacation among peasants. Her voice, when she spoke, was pure velvet. I'm just here to keep him humble. The men laughed. But Alec didn't. He was watching her like she was rewriting every rule of engagement. She'd played the role better than anyone he'd ever brought into this world. Better even than Sabrina. And she hadn't needed a single cue. The night unfolded with slow, strategic tension. Rina danced once with Alec. Politely declined another invitation with a gentle smile and a look that made the man forget he'd asked. She spoke little, but when she did, the conversation bent toward her. Sabrina watched from across the room like a woman trying to solve a riddle that kept slipping through her fingers. Then, near midnight, Rina excused herself. I need air, she said simply. Alec followed her without hesitation. They stepped out onto the terrace where the chill bit softly through silence. He waited until they were alone to ask, Where did you learn to do that? She didn't look at him, just stared at the garden below. You think no one in my world ever had class? I think you're not telling me everything. She turned slowly, leaning against the stone railing. I didn't agree to your little deal to impress anyone. Least of all you. Then why did you come? Because I have unfinished business with people like her. Alec's expression hardened. You knew her. Not directly. But her choices destroyed someone I loved. A pause. Sharp. Cold. And then, I'm not your revenge doll, Alec. I never said it. But you hoped I'd be just shocking enough to make her regret everything. His silence confirmed it. Rina pushed off the railing, walking past him. She already does, she said. But that's not why I'm here. He turned. Then why are you? She paused at the door. And for the first time all night, her voice broke just slightly. Because sometimes the only way to bury the past is to walk right into its arms. And remind it that you're still standing. She disappeared into the ballroom before he could answer. And Alec realized something terrifying. He didn't want the night to end. Not because of Sabrina. Not because of revenge. But because of her. He found her again near the dessert table, standing between a chocolate sculpture and a crystal tower of macarons, holding a glass of water like it anchored her to the floor. She didn't smile when she saw him. But she didn't walk away either. There you are, Alex said gently. I thought maybe you'd escaped. I considered it, Rina replied. But I figured you'd come looking. You're not wrong. He stood beside her, not touching. Just close enough to breathe the same air. Do you want to leave? He asked. No. Her eyes tracked a slow-moving circle of guests. I want her to see I'm still here. He followed her gaze. Sabrina stood across the ballroom, a flute of champagne in hand, surrounded by people, smiling, glowing, perfect. But her attention was somewhere else. On Rina. Alec turned slightly. You said she destroyed someone you loved. I did. Who? Rina didn't answer at first. Then she spoke, low and even. My sister. She worked for the Voss family. Accounting. Smart, loyal, careful. Until one day, money went missing. A lot of it. Alec listened in silence. She tried to explain, tried to fight it, but they needed a scapegoat and she was disposable. You think Sabrina had something to do with it? I don't think. Rina's voice darkened. I know. He looked at her carefully. And what happened to your sister? She disappeared. Her reputation ruined. Career over. I haven't heard from her in 2 years. Alec felt something shift in his chest. A cold guilt? He hadn't known any of this. He brought Rina here as a move in a private game. But she was playing for her life. Before he could respond, a familiar voice cut in. Well, this is cozy. Sabrina. She stood behind them, her posture perfect, her smile sharp as glass. I hope I'm not interrupting, she added sweetly. Rina turned, calm as ever. Just having a conversation. Sabrina's eyes narrowed just a little. You know, I've been trying to place you all night. Oh, you seem familiar. I get that a lot. I imagine you do, Sabrina said, voice still sweet, eyes anything but. But I never forget a face. Alec stepped in. Sabrina. But Rina cut him off with a look. No need, she said lightly. Let her dig. Sabrina smiled, but her voice was colder now. I don't know what Alec told you, but you should be careful. These circles are small. And people talk. Rina tilted her head. Let them. You think one dress and a borrowed name will make you matter here? No, Rina said, soft and lethal. But I think truth does. Even if it takes time. Sabrina's jaw clenched just for a second. Then she recovered. Well, enjoy the cake, she said with a shrug. It's the only sweet thing you'll get tonight. She turned and walked away. Alec exhaled slowly. That was a warning, Rina said. She's starting to remember. Is that a problem? Rina met his eyes. Only if you're on her side. I'm not. She studied him for a moment. I want you to understand something, Alec. I didn't come here to be saved. And I didn't come here to play pretty. I know. You made this about her. But I didn't. He nodded. I see that now. A slow silence fell between them, full of things unspoken. Then, across the ballroom, music shifted. A slow piano piece filled the air, elegant and familiar. Sabrina and her new husband took the floor for the official first dance. Eyes turned. Cameras blinked. The room exhaled in collective admiration. But Alec wasn't watching them. He was watching Rina. She didn't blink, didn't flinch, but her hand curled slightly around her glass. I'm done here, she said quietly. Alec hesitated. Let me take you home. No. Her voice was steady. I'll find my own way. She turned before he could answer, walking out of the ballroom like she hadn't just set it on fire. He stood there still. Guests whispered around him. Someone asked for a photo. But all he saw was a disappearing figure in sapphire. And for the first time in years, Alec Strathmore had no idea what the hell he was supposed to do next. Alec didn't sleep. He tried. He poured himself a second glass of scotch at 2 a.m., stared out across the city skyline from the penthouse windows, and tried to convince himself that tonight had been exactly what he wanted. But it wasn't. Rina Calder had walked into his life like a quiet question and left it like an answer he wasn't ready to face. He didn't know who she really was, and he hated not knowing. By morning, the decision was already made. He picked up his phone and dialed the number he hadn't used in over a year. Strathmore said, a crisp voice on the other end. I need a trace. Quiet. Fast. On a woman, Rina Calder. Spelled like it sounds? Yes. First seen working as a waitress in a cafe on 3rd and Hollis. Last night she attended the Vos Langford wedding with me. Get me everything. Give me 24 hours. Alec ended the call and leaned back in his chair, fingers drumming against the edge of his desk. He told himself it was precaution, curiosity, due diligence. But the truth clawed at him. He wanted to believe she was who she said she was. And deep down, he already knew she wasn't. By evening, the investigator called back. There's no Rina Calder on public records in the last 5 years, the voice said. Not in this city. Not anywhere traceable. Alec's jaw tightened. Fake name? Most likely. But get this, there was a Rina Calder enrolled at Linwood Academy 15 years ago. Scholarship kid. Brilliant record. Disappeared junior year. Parents dead. Younger sister Amelia Calder. Alec Stilled. That name's familiar. It should be. Amelia worked for Voss Enterprises. There was a pause. Until she was accused of embezzlement. Alec's breath left him like a slow punch. And vanished. Exactly. He leaned forward, resting his elbows on the desk. So who is Rina? She's not Rina, the voice replied. Her real name is Karina Blake. Changed it after her sister's arrest. And she's been off the grid since? Until last night. Alec ended the call. He sat in silence. Everything made sense now. Her poise. Her control. The way she looked at Sabrina like the air between them still held fire. And the look in her eyes when she said she wasn't here to be saved. She'd used him. But he'd used her first. Later that night, Alec drove to the cafe where they'd met. It was late. Nearly closing. He parked across the street, waiting. At 11:03, the side door opened. Rina stepped out. Not in a gown. Not in silk. Just jeans, a gray hoodie, and a bag over her shoulder. She didn't see him at first. Just walked quietly toward the bus stop. He got out of the car. Rina. She stopped like she'd been shot. Turned slowly. You found me, she said. Of course I did. A pause. I suppose this is the part where you demand an explanation. No, Alec said. This is the part where you give me one. She stared at him for a long moment, then walked toward a nearby bench and sat. I should have told you, she said simply. But I didn't think you'd care about the why. I care now. Her hands twisted together. My name is Karina Blake. My sister was Amelia. She worked for Voss Enterprises until Sabrina's father made her the fall girl for a cover-up that went all the way to the top. I remember the story. The scandal. They made it all look clean. But it wasn't. And my sister, she broke. She looked up at him. I took the first job I could. Changed my name. Vanished. But I never stopped looking. For answers. For justice. And when I saw your name on that guest list, saw you were going to be there, I thought. You thought you'd use me to get close. Yes, she said, without flinching. I did. He stood in silence. And then said what he hadn't planned to say. I used you too. Rina blinked. I wanted Sabrina to regret leaving me. I wanted her to see me with someone unforgettable. You got that. He laughed, tired, low, real? Yeah, I did. A moment passed. Then Rina asked softly, so now what? Alec stepped closer. You lied to me. Yes. You kept things from me. I did. And I'm furious. I know. But I believe you. She looked up. I don't know why, he added, voice quieter. But I do. She swallowed hard. I don't need your forgiveness. I'm not offering it, he said. Then added, not yet. He sat beside her. Neither of them spoke. The bus passed. Neither moved. And when Rina finally leaned her head against his shoulder, just for a second, he let her. He didn't know what this was. Didn't know if it was going anywhere. But he knew one thing for sure. Sabrina Voss wasn't the only one who had underestimated the girl in the blue gown. By morning, her face was on every screen. The headline on the society ledger was Elegant Poison. Mystery woman at Voss wedding from diner to diamond. But the Starline Weekly didn't hold back. Waitress or fraud? Who was the woman Strathmore brought to the Vosslangford gala? Rina stared at the newsstand outside the cafe where she worked just yesterday. Her photo, taken mid-laugh at Alec's side, was plastered next to glossy shots of Sabrina smiling like royalty. They hadn't printed her real name yet. But that wouldn't last. She walked into the cafe quietly, tied on her apron, and pretended she didn't exist. But she did. And now everyone knew it. In his corner office overlooking the city, Alec stood before a bank of floor-to-ceiling windows, his phone in one hand, a folder in the other. The voice on the other end was tight. You've seen the coverage? I have. Want us to push back? Spin it. No, Alec said. Let them burn through their curiosity. He hung up and opened the folder. Inside, documents, financial records, internal memos, an anonymous tip tied to a hidden account once routed through Voss Enterprises. It was real. Everything Rina said about her sister, about the cover-up, about the betrayal. And Alec Strathmore wasn't just going to believe her anymore. He was going to stand beside her. He walked into the press room at Strathmore Holdings just before noon. A dozen reporters were already buzzing, waiting for a statement about the Waitress scandal. Alec stepped up to the podium and said only this. Her name is Rina Calder. She was my guest. And if you want to know her story, ask her. But speak with respect. Or don't speak at all. Click, click, click. Every flashbulb caught the fire in his eyes. He didn't wait for questions. He walked off stage and straight into his next meeting with a private legal team specializing in corporate fraud. Meanwhile, across the city, Sabrina Voss was already 3 steps ahead. She sipped champagne by her pool, surrounded by PR managers and legal advisors. Her expression was calm, dismissive. She wants justice? Sabrina said coolly. Let's remind her why people like her stay in the dark. She hasn't said anything publicly, one advisor noted. But she will, Sabrina said, standing. So we'll strike first. That afternoon, the Belgrave Times released an anonymous source leak. A slanted article. It painted Rina as a social climber. Said she'd seduced Alec for money. Hinted she might have been involved in her sister's embezzlement case. It was brutal. And it worked. Rina saw it on the evening news in the back room of the cafe. Her coworkers fell silent. No one knew what to say. She stood up slowly, walked out the back door, and ran. Not away from the city, but straight to Alec's office. He looked up the moment she entered. She didn't wait. They're dragging her name through the dirt again, she said. And now they're coming for me. I know, Alec said calmly. That's why I'm suing for defamation. She blinked. What? On your behalf? And Amelia's. He slid the folder toward her. I have evidence. Signed records. Sabrina's name is all over it. Your sister didn't embezzle anything. She found out someone else did, and they buried her to keep it quiet. Rina stared at the papers. Her hands trembled. She wasn't lying. No, Alec said. And neither were you. Her throat tightened. And now what? She whispered. Now? Alec stood. We go public. On your terms. She shook her head. No. I didn't ask for this. But you deserve to finish it. A moment passed. Then Rina reached for the folder. Okay. The next morning, she sat across from a journalist in a sunlit studio. No script. No makeup team. Just truth. My name is Rina Calder, she said into the camera. My sister Amelia was destroyed by a system that protects the powerful. And I let fear keep me quiet. Until now. When the interview aired, it hit harder than anyone expected. Rina didn't cry. Didn't plead. She just told the truth. Plain and clean. By nightfall, the public was split, some still suspicious, some enthralled. But the wave had turned. And Sabrina? She threw a glass at her television. Because for the first time, she wasn't controlling the story. The invitation was white and gold. Embossed. Exclusive. Exactly what you'd expect from Sabrina Voss. An evening at Harrington Hall. Private gala. Members only. Strict dress code. No press. But Alec got one. And so did Rina. She stared at it on his kitchen counter like it was a detonator. She's baiting us, Rina said. I know. She wants a scene. She'll get one, Alec replied. Just not the one she planned. Rina looked at him, searching. You really think we can bring her down? He handed her a sleek black envelope. I think she already brought herself down. We're just delivering the verdict. Inside were final documents, traced accounts, transfers, communications, all connecting Sabrina Voss to the cover-up that ruined Amelia Blake. I don't want revenge, Rina whispered. I know. I just want it to stop. This is how. That night, Harrington Hall was wrapped in golden light. Wealth shimmered in every corner. Strings of pearls, cufflinks made of history, champagne flowing like secrets. Rina walked in on Alec's arm, dressed in a midnight gown that matched the silence before a storm. Her hair was pinned high, her back straight, her steps calm. But her eyes? Sharp, focused, ready. Sabrina spotted them the moment they entered. She was standing beside Elliot Langford, her husband, still flawless in a sea of glass smiles. "Of course you came," she said when they approached. "You never did know how to lose gracefully." Alec smiled thinly. "And you never knew when the game ended." Rina didn't speak. Not yet. She just held a sealed folder in her hand. Sabrina's gaze flicked toward it. "Trying to serve me paperwork at a party?" "No," Rina said, her voice steady. "Trying to serve you truth." She handed over the folder. Sabrina didn't open it, just passed it to her assistant with a sneer. "That's your truth, not mine." Rina took a deep breath. "You don't get to decide that anymore." And then, before Sabrina could snap back, Alec gave the signal. From across the room, a quiet ripple spread. Two men in dark suits entered through the side doors. Federal agents. Sabrina turned, confusion quickly hardening into panic. "What is this?" she snapped. "What's going on?" One of the agents stepped forward, badge in hand. "Sabrina Voss, you are under investigation for conspiracy, corporate fraud, and obstruction of justice." The crowd froze. Elliot stepped back. Her assistant dropped the glass in his hand. "You're kidding," Sabrina said, her laugh brittle. "I'm Sabrina Voss. You can't." "We can." Alec stepped closer. "You buried people, Sabrina, but the ground remembers." She looked at Rina, pure venom in her voice. "You think this makes you clean?" Rina didn't flinch. "No," she said softly, "but it makes me free." The agents took Sabrina by the arms. As they walked her out, the silence in the ballroom deepened. Not one person stopped them. Not one person helped her. Not this time. Later, under the stillness of the Strathmore penthouse, Rina stood at the balcony, arms wrapped around herself, staring at the lights below. Alec came up behind her, but didn't touch her. "She's gone," he said. "I thought I'd feel better." "Do you?" "I feel lighter. Not better. Just like I can breathe again." Alec waited. "I kept thinking about what I'd say if I ever saw her fall," Rina murmured. "But in the end, I didn't need words." "No," he said. "You didn't." She turned to him then. The wind pulled a few strands of hair across her face. He reached up and gently brushed them away. "I need to disappear for a while," she whispered. His chest tightened. "Where? Does it matter?" "It does to me." She looked down. "I want to be something outside of this. Not just the girl who took down Sabrina Voss. I want to remember who I was before the anger. And after." She met his eyes. "I don't know yet." Alec exhaled slowly. "I won't stop you. I didn't ask you to. But I'll wait." She smiled, small and real. "You don't strike me as the patient type." "I wasn't," he said. "Until you." 3 months passed. No texts, no calls, no headlines. Rina Calder disappeared from Belgrave just as suddenly as she had entered its spotlight. The world moved on. Sabrina's empire crumbled. Lawsuits piled up. Talk shows speculated and forgot. But Alec Strathmore didn't forget. Every morning he brewed 2 cups of coffee. One for himself. One left untouched. Until the morning it wasn't. He walked into his office to find a steaming cup on his desk, fresh, precise. And next to it, a keychain. Silver. Simple. Engraved with a single letter, R. Alec turned slowly. She stood by the window, arms folded. Hair longer now. Skin a little tanner. But those eyes still full of fire and silence. Coffee's still better when it's stolen, she said softly. He didn't speak. Thought I'd stop by before a meeting, she added. Strictly professional. Alec's voice caught slightly. Meeting? I'm launching a firm, she said. Consulting. Strategy. Ethics oversight for whistleblower cases. He smiled. You always did like long names. She stepped closer. I wanted to build something real. From scratch. Without your name on it. You don't owe me an explanation. I know. Alec looked down at the keychain. Then up at her. Why now? She hesitated. I needed to find out if I missed you. Or just missed the noise. And? I missed you. He didn't move. But something in his chest cracked open. Rina looked away. I still don't believe in fairy tales. I don't either. But I believe in showing up. His voice was quiet. And you're here? She nodded. I'm here. He took one step forward. Then another. And this time, when he kissed her, there was no anger. No audience. No game. Just breath. Warmth. And two people who had finally stopped running. Later that evening, they walked through the city streets in silence. No paparazzi. No headlines. Just streetlight shadows and the soft brush of her hand in his. They paused outside the little cafe where it all began. He looked at her. You know, he said, if I hadn't walked in that day, you would have chosen someone else. I would have made a mistake. She smiled. So would I. And as they stood beneath flickering neon, wrapped in quiet laughter and the scent of strong coffee and second chances, the man who once brought her to a wedding out of spite, and the woman who once wore a dress to burn down a dynasty, chose something quieter, something real. Not a revenge story, not a scandal, just a beginning. This time one they wrote together,